Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to America once again, and we're going to return to a brewery that's featured on the channel once before. Now, these guys are a relatively new addition to their local beer scene, but that local beer scene is very well established, and the last beer that I reviewed from these guys appeared on the channel maybe a couple of months ago, and I was really impressed with that one. A style that I personally very much enjoy, and a style that this brewery are very well known for. But the beer we're going to have a look at today is a style that I haven't tried from this brewery before. It's a style that this brewery are not that well known for, but a style that is very popular at the moment, of course. I've heard really good things about this one, and it seems to be highly rated, so needless to say, I'm very curious to see what this beer is going to have in store. Hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head over to America like I said. We're going to go to the West Coast, the state of California, the city of San Diego, and the district, or the area, I guess you could say, of North Park, and that means that we're going to have a look at my second beer from North Park Beer Company. So this particular beer is called Forever and Counting. It comes in at 8.5% ABV, and this one is a New England Hazy Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA. So yeah, the last beer that we tried from this brewery was a West Coast triple IPA, and it was beautiful, I have to say. But yeah, these guys are more known for their West Coast IPAs rather than the New England Hazies. So yeah, it's quite interesting to try something at the other end of the IPA spectrum and see how we get on with this one. But yeah, a massive thank you to my good friends Ben and Fanny for bringing this beer back to Hong Kong with them from the US. They gave me another two that we'll be having a look at in a few videos time. So one more from North Park and one from another brewery. So you can look forward to those reviews over the next wee while. But really cool to be able to return to this brewery quite so soon. I didn't think we'd be able to try any beers from these guys until I went to San Diego myself. But yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see how we go. So, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from North Park Beer Company before, and we will no doubt add more to that list in the near future. We've got one more, and hopefully we can add more beyond that as well. But there's all the usual social media down there too. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated. And remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the American playlist along with a number of other things. That's being added to whenever I get the opportunity, but do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about North Park Beer Company once again then. So, North Park Beer Company, or North Park Brewery, whatever you want to call them, are based in the North Park area of San Diego in California, and the company was founded back in 2016, and the main man behind it is Kelsey McNair. So Kelsey has a background in game design, and he moved to California to work in video game design quite a few years prior, but he soon fell in love with North Park, which is well known as being a beer haven, and he was also a long-time home brewer as well. So he started home brewing back in about 2004, and he operated out of his garage, and at this point he already had the North Park Beer Company name in his ownership, and his Hop Fu became one of the most highly decorated home brews in the US. So after garnering some massive recognition from home brewing circles, Kelsey and his wife Amanda started to focus on taking their love of beer to the commercial stage. So over the years they battled to raise capital to fund the brewery, and they eventually opened their doors to the public in June of 2016. But the premises is a large space on University Avenue, and it was formerly home to a kickboxing gym called the Undisputed. But they've got an on-site tap room and kitchen, with the brewery on one side of the seating space and the bar on the other, and the brewery is still a relatively small operation. They produced about 2,600 US barrels, around 415,000 litres in 2022. That was the latest figure I could find for these guys. But in June of 2022, they announced that they would open a second tap room in Bankers Hill, which has a 2,000 square foot floor space, and this opened a few months later, and it boasts 24 taps. But as of August 2024, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 455 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and like I kind of alluded to earlier, this brewery is best known for its West Coast IPAs. So yeah, I think that is everything I can really tell you about North Park Beer Company for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a wee bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on and actually have a little look at the beer itself. So to tell you a little bit of the detail about this one, this one is of course double dry hopped. It comes in at 8.5% ABV. The hop bill in this one, pardon me, is Citra. That's the only American hop in this one. Then you've got Nelson, Sauvin, Riwaka, Nectaron and Racal, all four of which come from New Zealand. So Citra is 14% alpha acid. It's going to give you that big juicy mango quality and quite a little bit of lemon lime in a New England IPA. Nelson Sauvin is a 16% alpha acid. It's going to give you that big white, green, grapey, slightly gooseberry type flavour. Riwaka is about 5 or 6% alpha acid, quite low, but it's known for giving like quite a kind of apricot-y flavour actually. Nectaron is an interesting one. That's one of the newer New Zealand hops. It's like 14-15% alpha acid again, but it gives you this sort of peachy and pineapple-y type character. And then Racal is an interesting one. That is about 10% alpha acid. It's got quite a bit of piney resinous character to it, and that's known for like, yeah, passion fruit and pineapple as well, from what I remember. So yeah, interesting hop bill in this one. Quite a lot of New Zealand hops, which is unusual for a Californian brewery, of course. Well, maybe it's not. Correct me on that in the comment section below. But yeah, most of the Californian beers I've had have been American hops. But still, really interesting hop bill in this one. As I said, 8.5% New England Hazy. I think this could be really interesting. I'll just have a wee look at the artwork on this one before we open it up. There you can see the North Park Beer Company symbol at the top of the can there. And yeah, the artwork on this one is really nice. Quite similar to what we had from the Triple Foo before actually, but a little bit more kind of cartoony if you like. But yeah, let's get this guy out into the glass. The Forever and Counting 8.5% New England Hazy Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA. So yeah, let's do this. Very curious about this beer. As I said, this brewery is not so well known for its New England Hazies, and I have to admit I do like that. I like going to breweries that you know and trying styles from them that they're not so well known for. It's always an interesting experiment to see, like, you know, how good is this brewery. But yeah, anyway, you can see this beer's poured pretty much as you would expect from the style. I think the light's just a little bit bright there. Let me just turn that down. There we go. That's better, isn't it? But yeah, you can see this beer, it's poured with about a finger and a half of quite a soapy but perfect white head there. So yeah, you can see head on this one, can medium-sized bubbles on the surface of the liquid, but it gets soapier the further up that you go. But I have to say, this is definitely one of the soupier and gloopier New England doubles that I've come across recently. The colour of this one, it's almost like a kind of pineapple juice colour. I always like comparing New England IPAs to different fruit juices because that's really just what their appearance reminds me of. But yeah, remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise and thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. But you don't often have to care about that when it comes to different kinds of IPAs. Normally it is just to do with the type of malts and things like that. But yeah, the level of haze in this one, as I said, the soupiness and gloopiness is pretty damn impressive. So the level of haze in New England IPAs is usually down to the oak content, the wheat content, and to a degree what yeast you use. And that can of course vary from brewery to brewery and even beer to beer. So yeah, not too much in the way of visible carbonation with this one. Just maybe, you know, saw one or two bubbles kind of floating about there. But yeah, all in all, in terms of what you'd expect appearance-wise from a New England IPA of any description, This one is pretty much meeting that expectation. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for appearance. Let's go on and actually have a little look at the nose of this beer, because I'm very, very curious about that with this one. Oh, that's good. That smells nice. First impression is it's very soft and very juicy, and this is quite an oaty leaning New England IPA for me. Yeah, quite an oaty one. But it smells really good. So, as I've explained on the channel before, for me there are 6 elements to think about when it comes to the malty and yeasty side of the New England IPAs with your flavour and aroma. So you've got the farmhousey, yeasty type character, the rye leaning, grainy side of things. Those are a bit more common in American brewed New Englands, whereas you've got also wheaty bitiness, oaty creaminess, barley malt bread, and the sweeter side of things. And that's more how the style has evolved as it's travelled across the world from America. The original American ones have a bit more of that farmhousey yeasty note to them. But yeah, the other thing you have to remember is that American wheat, North American wheat and North American oats are a bit different from, say, European oats. Like European wheat is a little bit more bitey, the oats are a bit more creamy, whereas American wheat I think is a bit smoother, and the oats are a little bit more porridgey and a little bit drier, I think, and you can definitely detect that in here. It's a very oaty leaning New England IPA, but it's got that American oaty dryness to it, I think. So yeah, this beer does deliver on everything you'd expect from the style though. So for me, a lot of barley malt, a lot of oaty character, nice juicy fruitiness, and quite a bright green component. So yeah, the backbone of the beer is the backbone of the beer here is kind of what you'd expect. You've got that lovely sort of fresh white bready hedgehog bread crust roll in there. You've got little hints of wood, you've got a little bit of cracker in there, but then yeah, there's a little touch of like a slightly sweet wholemealy brown bread in there, but that's quite minimal, I will point out. Most of your bready character in the backbone here is like a lovely fresh fluffy white bread, so there's a lot of that coming out of this one. So yeah, fluffy fresh white bread in here. Yeah, fluffy fresh white bread. You've also got a little bit of a more wheaty note to it, like at the back of the nose. You do get a little touch of bite from the wheat at the back of the nose, but yeah, you can smell that slightly more dense and smooth wheaty white bread character coming out of this one, which is great. And then the oats, as I said, it's always interesting because usually with oaty character in New England IPAs, you can use that as a rough judgment or a rough guide to how fresh your New England IPA is. Essentially, the creamier the oats are, the fresher the beer is, the drier they are, the older it is. But with American oats, it's a bit different because they are naturally a little bit drier. And I know this beer is pretty fresh. Ben got this within the last kind of couple of weeks, of course. But yeah, with this one you do get that nice oaty kind of creamy character out of it, but the oats are starting to show their drier side. There's a little touch of sweetness in here, like a kind of, there's a little bit of like Werther's Original butter candy butterscotch. Maybe it's Golden Promise malt that's in here, although I think that's an English malt if I'm not mistaken, so probably something else. But yeah, there's a little bit of that Werther's Original butter candy butterscotch. You expect that when you go up into the triples and quadruple IPAs and doubles to an extent as well. But yeah, they've got that little bit of sweetness in there, some McVitie's digestive biscuit, and yeah, the way that all of that goes together, I think, is really, really nice. So yeah, the malty side of this beer is really quite nice actually. I like that. It's got everything you would kind of want from this style, but definitely slightly softer and more bready, but quite a lot of oaty character in this one for me. The yeasty side of this beer at the back of the nose is like a soft, kind of fluffy, farmhousey white bread, I would say. But yeah, I think that's everything we need to say about the malty side of things. The hoppy side of the beer. So remember, with IPAs, there are 3 different kinds of hoppings that you can use. You've got early addition hopping, which is usually the first hour of the wort boil. That's responsible for your bitterness, basically, and it gives you a very deep, dank, green component in terms of flavour and aroma. You've got late addition hopping, which takes place into it in the last half hour of the wort boil. Most IPAs use it somewhere in the region of a 90-minute wort boil. Gives you a little bit of bitterness, mainly flavour and aroma though, and it gives you a very kind of bright green component. Then you've got dry hopping, which takes place after the wort boil is complete, and that's all about flavour and aroma. And again, it gives you a very bright green component. So New England IPAs rely on late addition and dry hopping for the most part. West Coast IPAs use all three, which is why they're deeper, danker, and more bitter basically. And New England IPAs are softer and more juicy. But yeah, you're getting quite a little bit of that kind of soft juiciness out of this one, of course. And yeah, the green component is very bright. So there's a teeny little bit of earthiness in there, a teeny little bit of herbal and woody character, as you quite often get. But the green component, of course, really leans toward that more kind of bright floral aromaticity. And I think the way that that goes together in this one is really, really nice. So yeah, for me, yeah, a little bit of earthiness, a little bit of herbal character, as I say, nice bright floral aromaticity, and a soft kind of grassiness coming out of this beer too, which I think is really, really nice. So yeah, I think that's everything about the green component. It's quite straightforward, but the fruity side of this beer is absolutely lovely. Really, really soft and juicy, as you know, as you would expect. But for me, it's almost like if I was smelling this one blind, I'd probably guess that it was Idaho 7. Idaho 7 has that really distinct, soft, tropical type quality to it, and for me, that's very, very apparent in this beer, although there's no Idaho 7 in it. So yeah, the fruity side of this one for me, yeah, you do get a little hint of that peachy sharpness, and that's, if I remember that, you know, that's going to be your Nectaron and your Citra that are giving you that. So you can kind of smell that at the you know, in the kind of top of the nose, but beyond that, it's lots of soft tropical notes for me. There's big juicy mango in there, quite a bit of passion fruit as well actually, apricots, bit of pineapple. Yeah, if you sugar it up a little bit more, you get a little bit of a sharper, you do get a little touch of that lemon limey character from the Citra out of it if you sugar it up that wee bit more. So yeah, all of these notes coming out of this one, the apricot from the Ruaka, the pineapple from the Rakau as well. It smells absolutely lovely. They did actually say on the Untappd description that they said strawberry was a good descriptor for this one, and I can actually see that. Strata is usually the hop that gives you that little bit of kind of strawberry character. But from the aroma of this one, I can definitely see why they would suggest strawberry, because it does have a little bit of that soft kind of juicy strawberry note to it there. Definitely, I can see that. So yeah, I wonder, is that most likely to come from the Rakau maybe? Interesting. But it could be the yeast, of course, as well that's giving you that. But all in all, really a soft kind of tropical fruity note coming out of this one in terms of its fruity aroma. So yeah, as I always say, take a little bit of time to enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. That's always half the experience when it comes to craft beer. So yeah, let's do this. Let's see how it is. So yeah, this is the Forever and Counting, an 8.5% New England Hazy, Imperial Double, if you want to call it IPA. Lots of New Zealand hops in this one from North Park Beer Company in San Diego, California. Really looking forward to this. Slàinte, skål, cheers, and a big thank you to Ben and Fanny once again. Let's do it. Oh yeah, really soft, juicy, easy drinking New England double that. Yeah, it's not one of the punchier New England IPAs that I've come across. It really is just a very smooth, easy drinking one, this, but it's good, it's enjoyable. It does give you a little touch more bitterness and things into the aftertaste too, but yeah, I've not had too many hazy IPAs from the American West Coast, in honesty, come to think of it. But yeah, this one is as I say, it's really quite good. It does remind me of reminds me like of some of the Treehouse IPAs that I had. It has that more oaty, smooth kind of character to it. Some of the old Stigbergets ones as well from Gothenburg in Sweden. yeah, the way that that goes together is really nice. I think on the second sip, you start to get more and more of the juicy, fruity character coming out of this one. And as I say, it's just a very, very, very solid New England double. This one, I think it's really nicely done. So it's a big, big thumbs up from me. Yeah, I like that with this one. It's solid. So yeah, wouldn't hesitate to drink this again. I'll say that straight away. But yeah, definitely more of an oaty leaning New England double IPA, but it gives you a wee bit more wheaty bitiness into the aftertaste, and the green component does show you just a little bit of bitterness into the aftertaste as well. So yeah, let's just break this beer down then and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth, as we always do. Middle third of your palate then. The backbone of the beer is that fresh white bready bread crust. That is really, really nice in this one. So yeah, fresh white bready bread crust in there. As you move further forward on that middle third of your palate, you've got that little touch of woody character in there, and then there's some like kind of grainy, sort of a little bit of that Jacob's cream cracker sort of character coming out of that. I don't know how good a descriptor that is for Americans, but like a kind of cream crackery note sitting on top of the bread crust for me. Above that, you get a little bit of a more kind of wholemeal brown bready sort of thing. Yeah, there's a more wholemeal brown bready kind of thing to this one, but that disappears quite quickly, and the focus is more on the kind of white bready character, I would say. So yeah, a little bit of a more, yeah, definitely more of a kind of white bready character coming out of the beer later on. But yeah, so above the kind of thinner brown bready layer, you've got a more fluffy white bready layer sitting above that. But yeah, quite light and airy. Then above that, you get the wheaty character out of the beer. And the wheaty side of this one's quite interesting. So I was talking about American wheat being a bit kind of smoother and less bitey than European wheat, but the wheatiness in this beer actually does have a little touch of bite to it, which is interesting. So yeah, a little bit of food for thought regarding that, I would say. So yeah, wee bit of that, wee bit of food for thought there on that one, because there is that little bit of wheaty bitiness there, and so you've got this more dense wheaty white bready layer above the barley malt, and further back on that middle third of the palate, yeah, it's got a bit more bite, but it kind of smoothens out. It smoothens out the further forward that you go with this one. So that's definitely there. And then on top of the wheaty character, you start to get some of the oaty notes out of this beer. But yeah, really into the aftertaste, I'm getting more and more wheat out of this one the more that I drink of it. So yeah, down the middle line of your palate, there's definitely more of that kind of creamy oaty type character in there. So yeah, there's a little bit of that going on in this one, and you can feel the creaminess of the oat down the middle line of your palate, but then yeah, as you go out toward the edges of your palate, it does get a little bit more kind of dry, if you like. But in the dead centre of the palate, there's a little circle there where you get a wee touch of that Werther's Original Butter Candy Butterscotch, and of course surrounding that there's a little bit of biscuit there, and that is of course the boozy side of the beer. But I will say this is not the sweetest or the creamiest of New England doubles that I've come across, and I have to admit, from the kind of appearance of this one, the fact that it was so opaque, I was expecting more, and the aroma as well, I was expecting this to lean more toward that oaty, creamy end of the spectrum. So yeah, interesting stuff in that, from that particular regard. But yeah, I think that's everything we need to say about the middle third of the palate, in all honesty. So let's go to the back third of the palate then. So as I've often said, sweeter flavours come out further forward on your palate, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back, and generally speaking, your back third of your palate is going to give you very similar flavours to the middle third of your palate, just at different intensities, of course. So yeah, the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of bready build up in there. You've got the brown bread kind of in the base there, the white bread on top, then the more bitey wheaty character. But yeah, the base of that back third of your palette, you've got the bread crust in there, which is a little bit drier, of course. The cracker sits above that. The brown bready there is a little bit taller, lighter, and more airy, slightly drier. Then above that, you've got the kind of more barley malt white bready layer in there, which again feels a little bit lighter, drier, and more airy. And then the wheaty character. The wheaty character sits above that, which is a little bit more bitey, of course. So you've got that little bit of bitiness there sitting on the back third of your palette. Then above everything else, you have the kind of yeasty side of things coming out of this one, which is quite nice. So let's just focus on that yeasty character a little bit. So yeah, the yeasty side of things for me, in this beer, at the centre of it, it's like a more sweet white bready character in the middle, so yeah, more dense kind of sweet white bready note there. Round the edge of that you have more of a, round the edge of that you've got a little bit more of a kind of drier white bread, and then it's a wee bit of like a bread crusty character, I'm getting a bit of crackery type character out of it too. So yeah, more of a white bready leaning yeasty character coming out of this beer. And as I say, the wheaty notes, the sort of wheaty bitiness out of this beer really pushes its way out the further into the aftertaste that you go to. So definitely, yeah, back third of your palate, you can feel the flavour is taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your tongue, condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah. On the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, you've got that nice little bit of earthiness in there. As you move further forward, it's a little touch herbal, and as you come further forward from that, you've got more sort of floral aromaticity coming out of this beer. There's maybe a little touch of pine resin in there. I think it was, Riwaka and Racal can both give you a little bit of pine resin, and Nelson Sauvin as well in the early stages. If you use any of these hops in the early stages of your wort bottle, they'll give you a bit of piney resin. So you can feel a little bit of that piney resin on the side of your palate, but more floral, aromatic and spicy the further forward that you go. But then yeah, around the front curve of your tongue, it's a wee bit lighter and more grassy, I would say. So yeah, the way that goes together in this one, I think, is really, really nice. So let's look at the fruity part of the beer and the front third of your palate. So like I said earlier, this one really leans toward that softer tropical side of things and the aroma, and it does the same in the actual flavour too. But yeah, border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of bready build up in there. Brown bread in the base, the kind of white bread on top, and a wee bit of the wheatiness there. But yeah, the base of that front third of your palate is more you can feel, you've got the bread crust in there, the cracker, a little bit of brown bread, a little bit of white bread, the more dense wheaty character there. Then yeah, you've got that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters kind of roll their way out of the beer. So yeah, that's pretty cool, I have to say. Let's look at the fruity side of things then to round off the tasting. So yeah, at the back of that front third of your palate, you do get a little touch, there's a little touch of grapefruit there, but quite minimal. You get that sharper kind of peachy character from the Citra. So yeah, sharper peachy note in there. Big sort of juicy. Yeah, there's peachy notes in there. As you move further forward from that, you've got a bit more passion fruit and big juicy ripe mango. There's maybe a little, there's not really guava in this one, it's not kind of green enough. So yeah, sharper peachy notes, big juicy mango, softer passion fruit there. And as you reach the middle of that front third of your palate, you've got the soft kind of apricot underneath, you've got a lot of the pineapple sitting on top of that, and all of these notes they'll be coming from all of the hops. The peach will be coming from the Nectaron and the Citra to an extent. The mango's going to come mostly from the Citra. The pineapple and the kind of apricot notes are going to come from the Racal and the Riwaka, I would say, but Citra will contribute to that as well. But yeah, as you move into the front half of the as you move into the front half of that front third of your palate, especially when you go into the aftertaste, you're getting more and more of that kind of oily white green grapey thing from the Nelson Sauvin, and that lingers there into the aftertaste too. Just behind the front tip of the tongue, where you've got those more zesty grassy esters, there's a wee bit of a kind of lemon limey type character. So yeah, the way that goes together is really, really nice in this one. The fruity side of this beer, it does lean more towards, it gives you a bit more kind of zesty, citrusy character than you might expect from the aroma, and that strawberry thing that I picked up isn't there in the flavour either. So yeah, interesting beer, this one. It's a wee bit, it diverges quite a wee bit from what you would expect from the aroma. But let's round off this review then with a wee look at the mouthfeel. So mouthfeel wise, for me, this beer is kind of top end to mid bodied. Carbonation is quite smooth. It's not really a creamy IPA, this one. It's got quite a little bit of bite to it. The more that I drink of this, it leans toward that wheaty bitey end of the spectrum. In terms of the IBUs, I think this is probably about 40-ish IBUs. It feels slightly more bitter, and again, you've got that kind of piney resiny character in there. But yeah, the malty side of things, a little bit dry underneath, smoother in the middle, and a little bit kind of more, you know, there's a little touch of like creaminess on top and a little bit of dry sweetness. But yeah, the yeasty character gives you a wee bit of dryness too. Said 40 IBUs, and the fruity side of things, it's got a little bit of bite to it, but then yeah, you've got that nice kind of juicy fruity character coming out of this as well. So all in all, the fruity side of this, the whole beer is really nicely done, but definitely more. It's got a lot of oat to it, but like I say, quite a little bit of a wheaty, bitey type character also. So yeah, it's a big thumbs up from me. This one, I think this has been really, really nice to try. So yeah, thank you to Ben and Fanny once again for making this review possible. Cool to return to North Park so soon after, you know, being lucky enough to find one of their beers here in Hong Kong. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This was the, I keep forgetting the name of this beer, the Forever and Counting, an 8.5% New England Hazy Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA from North Park Beer Company in North Park, San Diego, California, on the American West Coast. So yeah, thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from North Park Beer Company as well, and do give me some other San Diego brewery recommendations. I know there's lots of them, so I'd be curious to narrow that pool down a little bit for when I do eventually go and visit. But yeah, thank you again for watching. Check out my social media, check out their social media, and I'll catch you guys in another review very, very shortly. Slàinte, skål, and cheers.